All right, let's dive into the high-stakes world of railway maintenance. It's this place of incredible precision where safety is just everything. But it's also a world where, and you've got to love the irony, even the best laid plans can get, well, derailed by just one unexpected discovery.
And that really gets to the heart of what we're talking about today. I mean, what actually happens when a train rolls in for a totally routine checkup, but it turns out to be not so routine? The engineers pop the hood, so to speak, and they find something that is just not on any checklist. This, right here, is where the real challenge begins.
Okay, so to really get a handle on how things can go off the rails, we first have to understand what the plan is in the first place, right? Every single one of these huge maintenance projects starts with a baseline, a list of all the expected work, and that baseline has a name. It's called core work. Honestly, you could just think of it as the standard to-do list. It's the regular stuff, replacing parts that are getting old, inspecting all the super important components, running all the usual checks. This is the predictable, planned, no surprises part of the job.
But, of course, things get complicated and fast. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. You've got two different kinds of extra work. First, there's arising work, or AW. These are like planned variations. You kind of see them coming. But the real headache, the true troublemaker, is the additional arising work, the AAW. This is the stuff that comes completely out of left field. The unexpected crack, the surprise corrosion that you only find once you're deep into the overhaul. And here's the kicker. Every single piece of that AAW has to be formally authorized and documented. And that's where a project can just grind to a halt.
So let's really dig into what happens the moment that AWS shows up. Because it's not just one problem popping up. Oh no, it's more like a domino effect, a whole cascade of procedures that can create some serious delays and a ton of confusion. I mean, look at this. A single discovery kicks off this whole chain reaction of formal, official procedures. Each of these steps you see here, filing a query, maybe needing a deviation, isolating a part, it's not just a quick chat. It's a whole documented process. Let's break down some of the most critical ones. Okay, first up, the technical query. And let's be clear, this isn't like just tapping your supervisor on the shoulder and asking a quick question. No, this is a formal written request that gets sent way up the chain, maybe to the original manufacturer or a specialized engineering team. And while you're waiting for them to get back to you, well, the clock is just ticking away. But what happens if the problem isn't just tricky, but it's something the official rulebook doesn't even cover? Well, that's when you need something called a concession. And this is a huge deal. It's basically getting permission to deviate from the official standards, even just for this one time. As you can imagine, getting one requires a mountain of careful documentation and sign-offs from the very top. And get this, while all of that is going on, if a technician even suspects a component might be faulty, that part is immediately put into quarantine. It's a non-negotiable safety step. You have to isolate the part to make sure it doesn't get used by mistake. But the effect is, it can slam the brakes on an entire section of the overhaul until the whole thing gets sorted out. So you've got all this potential for just chaos, right? Delays, mountains of paperwork. So how on earth do you manage all that? Well, this is where modern digital tools step into the picture, and they offer a much smarter way to handle all this unplanned work. So instead of endless paper trails and games of phone tag, a digital system creates one streamlined process. An issue gets logged right away, usually with photos as clear as day evidence. That request is automatically routed to exactly the right person who needs to see it. And maybe the best part is, everyone can track its status in real time. The crucial takeaway here is that you end up with a complete, totally undeniable audit trail of every single decision that was made.
Okay, that all sounds great in theory, but how does this digital approach actually hold up in the real world, under pressure? Well, let's get specific. We're going to follow a single locomotive overhaul and see exactly how this plays out.
And you might want to brace yourself for this number. On just one locomotive, a grand total of 75 unplanned issues were raised. 75. That's 75 additional arising work queries. Think about that. That is 75 potential showstoppers, each one needing its own solution, its own quote, and its own approval. That's the sheer scale of the challenge we're talking about here.
And this chart really breaks down how they managed all 75 of those queries. As you can see, the vast majority, almost 94%, were handled right there by the project team on site. But a critical handful, about 5 of them, had to be escalated to the client for the final say-so. It's a perfect picture of seamless collaboration, and it was all tracked right inside the system. All right, let's zoom in and look at one of those 75 issues up close. So during the inspection, the engineers find corrosion, not just on the locomotive's body, but on its critical lifting pockets. Now, these are the points they use to literally lift the entire locomotive, so yeah, corrosion there is a major safety hazard. It absolutely has to be fixed. So, what's the first step? The project team immediately logs the issue in the system, and you can see the note right here. They decided this was serious enough to escalate it directly to the client team. They needed their input and ultimately their approval to proceed. Right inside the system, the team quickly puts together a proposed repair method and a super detailed quote for all the materials they'd need. Then, boom, the whole package is sent digitally to the client. No delays, no chance of paperwork getting lost on someone's desk. And here's the payoff. The client gets the notification, they review the photos, the plan, the cost, and they give instant approval, right there in the system. Just like that, the work can move forward without skipping a beat. So what we're really seeing here is a whole new and frankly, much better way of doing things. You go from that potential chaos we talked about earlier to this super clean 4-step digital workflow. You identify the issue with photos, send a digital quote, the client approves it instantly, and the work gets done and documented. It's simple, it's fast, and it's completely transparent. But this new process does way more than just save time. It fundamentally changes the 2 most important outcomes of any overhaul. First, the financial transparency, and second, and this is the big one, the final safety certification. First, let's talk about the money. The old way, that often meant getting to the end of the project and dropping a massive contentious bill on the client, who would then argue over all these unplanned costs. The new way, it's a transparent, continuous approval process. Every cost is approved as it comes up, so there are absolutely no nasty surprises at the end of the contract. But really, the ultimate goal here isn't just about the budget, it is all about safety. Before a single train can go back into service, it has to get a Certificate of Conformity. This is the golden ticket. It's the official document that says, yes, this vehicle is safe to operate, and you simply cannot get one without proving that every single issue has been resolved according to the standards. And this is what it all leads to. At the very end, the system generates a complete PDF, like a digital book, documenting all 75 of those unplanned issues. We're talking every technical detail, all the photos, and the digital signatures from every single person involved. It's a permanent, unchangeable record that proves compliance and gives the client a perfect history of the entire overhaul. So this all brings us to a final thought. We've just seen how a really detailed, totally transparent digital audit trail can completely transform safety and efficiency in the incredibly complex world of railway maintenance. So it really makes you wonder, right? What other high-stakes industries out there, think aviation, energy, you name it, are ready for their own track change?